Good evening. Hello Facebook, hello YouTube. Yes, I'm live. Okay, so I'm just hopping on before I switch off for the week. And I was just thinking actually around like my past and how I used to work and some of my working practices. And I just thought I'd hop on here and just share it with you because I used to really be a workaholic, and I never would have even attached that word to myself years ago when I used to just go around doing my thing. And it never occurred to me that I was a workaholic. It never even occurred to me that how I was working and creating and living or just really wasn't sustainable. So this afternoon, I just found myself, doing the things in the business that needed my attention, had a couple of calls and things and, things I really love doing. But it's the Friday afternoon is when I typically, for me anyway, I just kind of tie up like the loose ends. So sometimes there's any bit of admin stuff, paperwork, anything that just needs my attention. Not the most fun, creative stuff, but I tend to just batch it. And I was just feeling really tired this afternoon. I was like, oh, I really just very much feel like switching off and relaxing, right, for Friday evening and just, not doing so much today. And I just started, looking at the clock thinking, okay, I'm just going to have a drink now, a cup of tea or something. I had a chat with Michael. And then I was like, I'm going to just do last sort of 30 minutes, give myself 30 minutes to just tie up the loose ends and everything else can wait after that. And when I just sat down and I kind of committed to doing it like that, it really brought me back because I just remembered a time when it was Friday and I was a lawyer. My whole life was completely different. This would have been, when did I leave? I left in 2013. So this would have been kind of, let's say like 2010. I'd have been at the height of like what I was doing. Really busy. And I used to get to Friday and, there was always non-stop things to do. So I used to just keep on going. I never would have even given myself this window of time to get things done. I had this mentality of just keep working. Like I never had an end point. It would just keep working, literally until I dropped or until I had like no energy and I had to stop. So it just kind of, the contrast made me really think today, because when you transform something, sometimes you forget how you used to be. And I look back and I just got a glimpse of it. And I was just kind of giving love to my old previous version of me, that she just didn't know when to switch off. And I'm just sharing this in case any of you, some of you might be feeling this now, some of you might be battling with this at times, because a lot of creative, entrepreneurial, multi-passionate, it's Friday, can't get my words out, multi-passionate souls, we often have a lot of things we're wanting to create and focus and, being ambitious. So the flip side of that is really to understand when we have a cut-off point and when to switch off and not go into that workaholic achiever mode all the time. So it's so easy to do. So I'm just sharing this for any of you, so you can just, I'm kind of holding up a bit of a mirror maybe for some of you that need to maybe just do a little bit of a check-in for yourself. And especially if you're someone, and this won't apply to all of you, but especially those of you who are like me, who, maybe you've got your own business or you keep your own hours, or you just, you report to yourself, right? There is no one that's going to come in and say, hey, you can clock off now, or you can forget about that. Especially with my business, there are days where like it's not like a Monday to Friday thing for me. It's very mission based, but it's also because I love it. I typically have these thoughts around everything I do every single day. There's not a day that doesn't go by where I wouldn't think about my business in some way. So I've had to really learn on this entrepreneurial journey as well of how to allow myself to do that, but having some, I don't know if they're boundaries, doesn't even maybe feel like the right word, but maybe stepping into the right energies. And some of that is trust, to trust yourself. If you do just stop and put the work down and step aside and allow yourself to switch off, it actually creates more power and it creates more productivity. And I really swear blind by that, because a lot of the fears are, if we don't finish the work, if we don't get it done, it's going to pile up next week, it's going to pile up tomorrow, or there'll be some consequence to not getting it done. But really, in reality, it's very few things have like an absolute deadline. So, and I'm just a bit rambly right now about it, but I just felt like sharing this because there's a lot of pressure. And being a workaholic, which I really was, like I just never switched off. And it was really coming from a place, for me anyway, of not being very good at self-love, not being very tuned into my own needs. My boundaries were all over the place. I didn't really have them. You know, I used to be very very people pleasing. Sometimes it's about saying yes to everybody and everything and not saying no enough. So all of these pieces were pieces that I had to work through and really address within myself. So it's a big one. It can definitely bring up a lot of inner patterns and you know, points that we struggle with, but it's very worth looking at. So I just invite you, if you're receiving this message on a Friday or whenever you're receiving this, just check in with yourself at where you're at right now. You might be good, you might have the balance. Just check in. Do you feel like you've got a bit of a workaholic energy going on? And it could even be when you love the stuff that you're lit up about, but it's really important as well to go with your energy, but give yourself the time where you can switch off. It's like one of the number one things now I do for myself when I create anything. And the other thing is, it's not a great thing to do is allow yourself, when we talk about energy, is, you know, there are times if you feel that, how would I say it, like that impulse, that flow, you know, when you get that kind of creative flow or whatever you're doing, and you have this kind of surge of energy and it really fuels you, and you can maybe do some longer hours and you kind of throw yourself into projects and things that you love. That kind of energy I'm talking about is different, because like I have that every now and then, right? I get this surge of, I feel like I don't need as much sleep. I just kind of, I'm on this sort of track. But I'm talking more about when that's not naturally flowing. It's really important to allow yourself to follow your own energy so that you can sustain, that you can really sustain. So not all of us are designed, for example, to be those energy types where we wake up in the morning with energy, we use it up through the day, we go to bed, we restore it overnight, and then we get up and do the same kind of pattern. Some of you will be like that, but some of you won't. Some of you will be more the energy type that I am, truly. I used to think I was the other type, but now I realize, no, my energy is kind of, it has ebbs and flows. So there are certain days where I can feel very, maybe more energized in some ways. And for me, it's more like I can be very productive. So I'll do things in batches, typically. Like it might be a day where I'm feeling it. So I know on that day, I'll create the things I want to create, like fairly productive, like very, very kind of in a very small space of time. And then there are times when my energy ebbs and I have less energy. And now, I used to think there was something wrong with this, and I've since come to realize it's just a natural ebb for me. So what I do now is, instead of berating myself when I don't have the energy, I let myself relax. I do a lot of resting, relaxing, being playful. A lot of my space sometimes is daydreaming and envisioning. It's a very big part of how I work. And how that works then is, then when that comes through, I've given it enough space. When it's time to do the productive, I can get laser focused and I actually create a lot in a short space of time. So that might resonate with you, it might not, but it's about finding your own energy, really, really getting in tune with your own energy flow. It's going to serve you so well. And then you don't have to get into this workaholic mode, which tells us we have to get it all done. We have to do it all now. And it's very exhausting. It's really, really exhausting, and it doesn't work, and it's definitely not sustainable. And if you need any evidence for that, I was someone where it wasn't sustainable for, and that's what led me up to complete and utter burnout. I'm talking about debilitating. It took me out of like the daily living process for several years. I had ME, chronic fatigue, kind of fibromyalgia at certain points, and you know, it wasn't a sustainable way of living. So I really, when I share this, it's really coming from a place of, I fully have walked that path when we don't live our true energy style, and we're trying to go up against it, and we're becoming workaholics, we're becoming these kind of machines that just are living on autopilot. There is so much more to it. So there are many other ways that you can tap into that perhaps maybe you are now, maybe you're not. So just know, wherever you are with your energy, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just about, perhaps you're not tuned into the right ebb and flow for your particular energy style and maybe the stage that you're at of your life or your business, because we're changeable creatures. We're not always one way. So I just wanted to share some of those thoughts because they were floating around my mind earlier, and it was such a contrast to the way I lived before. So now it's like just gone 6 p.m. So for me, I'm just gonna consciously making the choice now to switch off. I'll probably check in online like later, but that'll just be because I want to. That's a different energy to my work. But I'm being very conscious. If I wasn't conscious, I could just carry on for another couple of hours. But if I do that like every single day, it's not a life. It's not a juicy, expansive life if we're enslaved by this work mentality. And I know this might bring up a lot because a lot of us have this belief that, yeah, but you've got to put the hours in now to reap the rewards later. You can do it that way, but that's a very old paradigm. It's a very old paradigm of sacrifice now to benefit later. That's how we used to do it. The energies are shifting. We have so many more expansive energies to tap into. So we're moving into a different direction. And you're going to see this more over the next decade and beyond. We're going to have different types of leaders. We're going to have different types of businesses, ways of working that are going to really, really elevate beyond the model that we've seen. The model that we've seen has told us the harder we work, the more successful we are, the more hours we put in, the better it is. The more you sacrifice yourself now, the more successful you are. Old, old, old. So let me know your thoughts. If anything comes up as a result of this, I'd love to hear. So feel free to drop me a comment. But I'm going to switch off now and walk my talk, because it did take me a long time to get out of the illness, like for years. If I wrote my book Above and Beyond. I talk about my life journey, my life experience, but it really did, it really cost me, and it took me many, many years to come out of that real burnout, and I don't recommend it. So look after yourself, really follow your energy. And if you do want help with any of this is, again, it's a big chunk of what I would do with somebody. I cover all of these internal aspects. Energy is the huge foundational piece for everything. So just go and check out theawakerevolution.com. You can just go onto the website, click on ways to work with me. You can check out those details there. So I'm definitely here to help guide and assist you with all of these things, energy-wise, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and practical as well, in our lives and creativities and businesses and missions and all the good things. So happy Friday. I send you lots of love. Have a lovely rest of your evening, and I'll be on here again tomorrow. So lots of love. I'll see you then.